You ever get that feeling that the world is just speeding up? That borders don't mean what they used to, and that people and ideas are zipping around in ways that are totally new? Well, there's a name for that feeling. The anthropologist Arjun Appadurai came up with this incredible way of seeing our world. He said that modernity has basically broken its banks, it's overflowing. Let's really get into what that means. I mean, just think about this question for a second. It's a weird thought, isn't it? That your deepest connections, your sense of who you are, can stretch thousands of miles, maybe even more than, to the person living right next door. Well, this isn't just a random fluke. It's a defining feature of our time, and Appadurai's work gives us the toolkit to figure out how this is even possible. So, here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll kick things off with Appadurai's own story, which is really the key to everything. Then we'll look at the old, outdated model he was arguing against. After that, we'll get into the two massive forces that he says change the game, talk about the new role of imagination, which is crucial, and finally, we'll see what this wild world without containers actually looks like. All right, first up, to really get a handle on this huge global idea, we've got to start super small and personal, with Arjun Appadurai's own story of growing up in Bombay. And this right here is the heart of it. For him, being modern wasn't something that just grew organically out of his city. No, it was this collection of borrowed pieces, little fragments of other lives, other places that came to him from across the ocean. It was an idea of a different life built from the outside in. And these examples just paint such a vivid picture. It wasn't one single thing. It was a collage. He's seeing a version of America in the shiny pages of Life magazine, or in the dark of a movie theater watching Hollywood B-flicks. He's literally dreaming of his future by flipping through college catalogs from another continent. And then bam, it becomes totally real when his brother comes home from Stanford, actually wearing jeans. Each one is a tiny piece of a massive global flow. Okay, section 2. Now, his personal story is so important because it just completely shatters the old way of thinking about things. Before Appadurai, the story of how a country becomes modern was supposed to be a lot simpler, a nice, neat story that happened inside a box. So this was the old school idea, called classical modernization theory. It basically laid out a single recipe. Every society starts as traditional, and then you follow a set path to become modern, which, surprise, surprise, looked a lot like the West. And the really crucial part? This whole transformation was supposed to happen neatly inside the borders of a single country, the nation-state. That was the container. And yeah, the path was seen as this dead, straight line. You start at point A, tradition. You have a big break with the past, industrialization, secularization, and you end up at point B, a Western-style, modern society. Super clean, super linear. But Appadurai looked at the world at his own life and basically said, hold on, that's just not what's happening anymore. And this is his lightning bolt of an idea. He uses this fantastic Spanish word, desbordada. It means overflowing, uncontained. Think of a river bursting its banks. He's saying modernity can't be held in that neat little box of the nation-state anymore. It's spilling out everywhere, crossing borders, and mixing together in ways no one could have predicted. So if modernity is this overflowing river, you have to ask, well, what's causing the flood? Appadurai points his finger at two incredibly powerful, interconnected forces that are acting like the engines of this whole thing. What's so brilliant here is that it's not just one or the other. It's the interaction between the two that's like rocket fuel. On one hand, you've got electronic media, TV, movies, music, beaming these scripts for how to live all over the planet. It gives people a whole new menu of options for who they could be. And on the other hand, you have mass migration, people moving on a scale we've never seen, creating what he calls deterritorialized populations, basically huge groups of people whose identities aren't tied to just one piece of land. You put those two together, and the world fundamentally changes. And this isn't just some abstract theory in a book. It's happening all around us. It's Turkish workers in Germany keeping that connection to home alive by watching Turkish movies. It's Pakistani taxi drivers in Chicago listening to sermons recorded on cassette tapes from their hometowns. It's Koreans in Philadelphia watching the Olympics happening in Seoul live via satellite. Media and migration are weaving this incredibly complex new global fabric right before our eyes. Now, this powerful mix of media and migration leads us to what is, for me, the most mind-blowing part of his whole theory. Because of these forces, Appadurai says that the very function of imagination has changed. It's not just for daydreaming anymore. Okay, so here's the big shift. Imagination has gone from being this private, individual thing, for artists or just for escaping reality for a bit, to a full-blown collective practice. It's become a shared social space, a virtual place where millions of people who will never meet can start to build new kinds of lives and new kinds of communities together. And he draws a really sharp line here between fantasy and what he calls imagination. Think of it like this. Fantasy is private and escapist. It's an end in itself. But imagination, in his view, is social and collective. It isn't an escape from the world. It's the first step to changing the world. It becomes the fuel, the raw material for actual social movements. This quote just says it all, perfectly. A staging ground for action. It's like a rehearsal space for reality. These shared worlds that people build together in their minds, they become the place where plans are made, where solidarity is built, and where people find the courage to take real-world action. So, you put all this together, the overflow, the media, the migration, the new power of imagination. What kind of world do you get? What are the actual consequences of all this? Let's take a look. The results are, well, world-changing. You start to see what he calls diasporic public spheres, basically global conversations between migrant groups that span continents. You get these new communities of sentiment, groups of people who feel connected, not because they live near each other, but because they share feelings and ideas through media. And all of this, of course, is a massive challenge to the old power of the nation-state. Suddenly, your passport doesn't tell the whole story of who you are. Now, a really powerful and obviously complex example of this in action was the Salman Rushdie affair. If we look at it just from an analytical perspective, it's a perfect case study. An issue over a book published in the UK didn't stay there. It exploded into a global event, mobilizing a massive community of sentiment that coordinated actions across dozens of countries, totally bypassing the normal channels of international politics. So why does all of this matter to you and me? The big takeaway is that the old maps just don't work anymore. You can't understand the 21st century by looking at a map with neat, colored-in countries. The real map is a messy, beautiful, chaotic web of connections, of flows of people and ideas and images that are constantly crisscrossing those old borders, creating identities that are more complex and fluid than ever before. And that, of course, leaves us with a huge, looming question for our future. If the nation-state, that old container, isn't the only thing defining our communities anymore, then what will? In this overflowing, uncontained modern world, what new ideas, what new loyalties, what new sentiments are going to be the glue that holds us all together?